Alright, in the last video we went over non-chord tones, introducing the different types. In this video we're going to do some assignments and work through this to get some extra practice on non-chord tones. So here it says, supply the indicated embellishing tone in the upper voice of the two-part texture. Make sure that your added non-harmonic tone or non-chord tone creates a dissonance with the lower voice. If it doesn't create a dissonance, it's not a non-chord tone. So in this case, they've told us what they want us to write in. Okay, so here they want a passing tone. So this is really easy. Here's the A, here C to A. So we're just going to write ourselves a B. Okay, a B. I'll do this in my typical shorthand, like this. I'll make that an eighth note. It works rhythmically as well. There we have it. So C, D, A. Okay, here's the example. So notice consonant, dissonant, consonant. Here we have two choices. I'll use the lower neighbor in this case. Right, C to C with a B. So in this case, dissonance resolution. If I do, also works, but it's not as dissonant because perfect fourth doesn't really sound dissonant. So the minor second is going to create more dissonance there. Okay. In this case here, all right, suspension. So in this case, what I've done is I've just suspended this E and resolved it down a step. So here we have, see that? All right, that's a suspension. Now we have different types of suspensions. When you're analyzing suspensions, oftentimes what we'll do is we'll define the distance between it and the bass note, the bass voice. So in this case, the interval between the bass and this voice here, the lower voice and the upper voice, is a seventh. And that resolves to a sixth because this goes to a D. So D to F is a sixth. See? So suspensions are almost always going to be indicated, you know, as a larger number resolving to a number that's one number less, usually. The bass note can change, so if the bass note changes, then that resolution might not look like that, like a 7/6. Anticipation, the very next one here. We need to anticipate the C, so we're just going to go to the C one note earlier. Very simple, like that. Consonant. Okay. It's dissonant to the G major chord. That's an anticipation. Hopefully this is pretty easy to understand. Next one, same idea. Anticipate the G, so you're going to go to the G early, like this. Okay. Suspension, same idea here. Just going to suspend that C. And then resolve. In this case, we would call this a 4/3 suspension because this is a fourth, and then this is a third, right? Passing tone, really simple. Okay, like that. That would be a passing tone. Now, in this case, notice how, and this harmony would have to be, you know, you can see that this doesn't sound very dissonant, right? For that passing tone, it's not going to sound very dissonant. This chord would have to be something different, like it would have to be like a C major chord, for example. Like that, for it to really sound dissonant, or an A minor chord. Okay? In that case, this is what we call an accented passing tone, or an accented non-chord tone. It's accented because it plays at the same time as the chord, right? And it's not delayed, or it's not early. So if you take a look here, the chord plays here, and then it plays here, then it plays here, the chord plays here, then it plays here. I'm looking at this, the bass note determined this, okay? This is where the chords play. Plays here and here, plays here and here. It's where the lower note plays, here and here and here and here. So if you take a look now, we can see in this first example, the passing tone happens in between the chords, therefore it's non-accented. Neighbor tone is in between the chords, non-accented. Suspension is almost always going to be accented. Anticipation, non-accented. Anticipation, non-accented. Anticipations will almost always be non-accented. Suspension, like I said, accented. This passing tone is accented. And again, another suspension. We're just going to suspend the B, like so. This becomes our suspension. And in this case, we're dealing with a 5/4 suspension. Okay? So hopefully that's making sense. All right, the circled note in each of the following 3 note figures is either a consonant embellishing chord tone, consonant means it's already in the chord, or a dissonant non-harmonic tone or a non-chord tone. If it is a chord tone, write C above it. That means if it's harmonic, write C. If it is a non-chord tone, identify its melodic type using the following abbreviations: P for passing tone, N for neighbor tone, A for anticipation, S for suspension, along with the prefix A for accented. Okay, so use a prefix A if it's accented. Accented passing tone, accented neighbor tone, whatnot. Okay, so let's take a look and work through these. So first example here, you can see we leap down to the non-chord tone and leap away. So anytime you're dealing with 2 leaps subsequently like this, it's probably not a non-chord tone. Okay, or if it is, it's just not done properly. Because as we talked about, you know, if you're leaping to a non-chord tone, you're going to step in the opposite direction to a resolution. If you're stepping to a non-chord tone, you're going to leap away for an escape tone. So in this case, it's probably a chord tone. And if we spell this out, take a look. F sharp, A, D, well, that spells a D major chord. Does it really sound dissonant? No, it doesn't. It sounds like it's part of the D major chord, so that's consonant. Take a look at the next example here. This, we're going from C down to B flat down to A, definitely a passing tone. It's in between the chords, so it's not accented. Going to the next one, we're dealing with suspension, obviously. You could just write S or SUS for suspension. And then we don't have to do this, but let's go ahead and do it. Dealing with a 7/6 suspension because it's a 7th here resolving to a 6th. All suspensions are accented, so don't bother calling it an accented suspension. Next one here, we're dealing with a neighbor tone, right? Because we're going up to the neighbor and back down. The next example here, you're dealing with an anticipation, because here's the D. We're anticipating the D. Going to the next example here. Now this is interesting, right? Because you're going from BD down to G, down to F sharp. Now, this is debatable. Is this a non-chord tone? Not really, right? It sounds like it's just a G major chord. Clue to this is also the F sharp. Now, if you were to analyze this and say, no, we're dealing with an appoggiatura here, you could say, maybe I'm dealing with a B minor chord here, then this would be dissonant, right? Okay? But it depends on how you hear it. So you could call this consonant, or if you're analyzing this really as a B minor and not G major here, you could analyze this as an appoggiatura. Notice this appoggiatura does not resolve by step in the opposite direction. If it's a small enough leap, like a third, this is perfectly acceptable. Okay? So it's a question of how do you hear it? Do you hear it like G major, where it's consonant, or do you hear it like B minor, where it's dissonant? Right? So notice there are, you know, sometimes multiple answers, and both of them are correct. All right, let's take a look at this example here. We have a passing tone, B-A-G. This time it happens on the beat here. It's absolutely non-chord tone. It's an accented passing tone. So write accented passing tone, AP. And in this case, we have another anticipation because of the G preceding this G. We have another anticipation here. Okay? But is it actually anticipation? Let's find out. Because look, the chord happens right here. Okay? Usually anticipations anticipate the chord, so the chord change shouldn't happen already. So guess what? It's not actually anticipation. Kind of tricky, yeah? Because the chord has already changed, therefore this is consonant. The chord has already changed. It looks like an anticipation, but look at that bottom note. The bottom note changed later here, so this is anticipation. Whereas in this case, it changes at the same time. It's not an anticipation. If this was moved over here, it certainly would be, but it's not. And last but not least, we have this one here. Leaps by a third, resolves by a step. Question is, how do you hear it? Right? This sounds like just a resolution of F sharp to B minor. So in this case, consonant. Okay? Consonant. Can be a little tricky to see. Just be on the lookout for that. All right. Let's do one more here. We're going to label the non-chord tones, then we're going to analyze the Roman numeral numbers here. Okay. Let's fly through this. So you can see these are going to be really, really easy to do. Non-chord tone here. This is a neighbor tone, passing tone, right? Anticipation. Okay, you can see how that works there. Passing tone, passing tone, passing tone, anticipation, because the F sharp precedes the F sharp. Neighbor tone here, passing tone from the A down to a G, I assume, yes. Flying right along. Passing tone here, passing tone, passing tone, passing tone, passing tone, and anticipation. Okay. Really easy to see. They've all been marked for us. We've knocked them all out. Now, why is this important? This is important to analyze because every single one of these notes we're going to ignore when we do our harmonic analysis, our Roman numeral analysis next. That's why we want to go through the process of locating our non-chord tones, because we are not going to take them into account when we do our analysis. Okay? So to do this analysis, I'm going to start off by doing lead sheet symbols. To do that, I'm going to break these down to individual chords. I'm going to build it up. So E, G, B, well, that's E minor. That's my lead sheet symbol. Next one, D sharp, B, F sharp. That's a B major over D sharp. Okay, next we have B, D sharp, B. That's a B major chord. Going to E, G, B. That's E minor. Okay, now, of course, if you need to go through the process of doing this whole bit here, by all means, do that. Okay? I'm just going through it a bit faster now. And hopefully you're able to keep up a little bit better. Back to a B major chord here. Back to an E minor, this time over G, because the bass note's a G. Back to E minor. This is still E minor. This is E, G, B. Nothing's changed. Still E minor, and then B major. This is still B major here. And then going here, this is E minor over G. And then we still have E minor here, but now it's back to root position. And now we have a change. Okay, F sharp D A is a D major chord over F sharp, so that's changed. Then we have a G major chord, that's a little different. Then we have a B over D sharp again. Back to E minor. Back to A minor now. This is a bit different over C, because we have A, C, and E spells A minor, and C is the bass note. Back to the B major chord, and back to presumably E minor, even though there is no G or B. E minor has been strongly established. So I've done my lead sheet symbols. Now all I have to do is do my Roman numeral analysis. I think it's pretty safe to say that we are in the key of E minor, not G major, with all the E minor chords. So now I do just translate this. This is a minor 1 chord. A B over D is just a 5/6 chord. Back to a B is just a 5 chord. E minor is just a minor 1 chord, then a 5 chord. E minor G is just a 1/6 because it's first inversion. Back to root position 1, and then back to the 5 chord. Second line. See how I'm just translating what I already have here? Okay. Again, if I'm going too fast, feel free to slow down the speed of the video. Okay. All right, so E minor over G, that's a 1-6 chord, minor 1-6, back to the minor 1 in root position. Now, here's a change. D over F sharp. Well, this is a bit tricky here. D over F sharp, because that's actually like a 7 chord, right? So we could call this a major 7-6, major 7-6, to the G major chord, which is a 3 chord. That's one way of analyzing this. That's one way of analyzing this. But there's another way of analyzing this, which is a little bit more advanced and I would argue more accurate. That this is actually acting like the dominant of G major, and G major is the 3 chord, which is also the relative major to E minor. See, it's the relative major. So we could actually analyze this as the 5-6 of 3, leading to 3. The 5-6 of 3 leading to 3. How does this work? Well, in G major, the dominant of G major is D major. See that? So D major is the dominant of G, and G is the 3 chord of E minor. So this can be said to be the 5-6 of 3. This is what we call an applied chord or a borrowed chord, because we're borrowing it from another key. Okay, in this case, we're borrowing from the key of G major. So 5-6 of 3 or 7-6. 5-6 of 3 more clearly tells us the function of that chord. We can really hear it if we go, here's the E minor going to the 5-6 of 3 to 3. Now we can really hear the resolution of that, and it sounds very nice. Next, we go back to 5-6, B, okay, 5-6 of E minor, back to the minor 1. A minor is just the minor 4, okay, and it's in first inversion. And then we're back to 5 and back to 1. And that's how we go about doing the analysis of that. Feel free to watch that in slow motion if you need to. Hopefully that's making sense. Anyhow, that concludes this video. I think this is all the videos I'm recording today, but I look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you have any requests for other videos explaining any of the topics we covered, or any other topics for that matter, let me know, and I will do what I can to include that in a video in the near future. Take care, and I'll see you next time.